Rachel Rene. I'm the founder of Reissland Studios in Columbus Unite, and I'm a proud ambassador of the Blatant Brew. I'm a creative, consider myself an artist, producer, engineer. If it's creative and if I can get my hands on it, I'm gonna do it. Event planning and all that jazz. If we're talking about MCs, it's probably the most influenced. Joe Budden's my favorite rapper, favorite MC. I mean, 50 was a big influence, Jay-Z was a big influence, MC Lyte, Queen Latifah. If we're talking more on the melodic side, Sade was a huge influence, Motown, jazz, all of that as well. I tend to listen to older music, honestly. First time I heard hip-hop, I didn't get it, and I didn't like it. And then it was explained to me, how it was, storytelling, how it was expressive, and the voice of those who, felt like they had been oppressed or outcast, and speaking up, and the whole movement behind it. And that inspired me to get, involved in it for myself. I did a lot of poetry, and I got dared, basically. Somebody's like, okay, yeah, you can write these poems, but can you rap? And I couldn't, but I said yes. And I fell in love with it after that, and that was like 13 years ago now. That might have been one of the greatest studio experiences of my entire life. And I know that I've heard other people say that. I mean, I know Nine Vibes mentioned, just feeling how incredible it was, but a lot of the ladies may have met each other, knew of each other. There were some people that knew each other, but by the end of that whole thing, you felt like everybody was just like really legitimately friends. Like, people were already knowing words to the verses, people were already jamming out to everything. I mean, it was just, I've been really lucky enough to record with like 3 or 4 dozen artists over the last 3 to 5 years. I don't know if I've had more than 2 or 3 other experiences that even come close to what that was like for me. It was awesome. Chad said, I need a beat. I said, I got you. She said a verse 2. Now we're talking about a bloody scene. Yeah, it's interesting because, I think that there are plenty of people who do know that I do music, but I think that there are a lot of people who assume that, I'm the engineer, primarily is what I've been known for, or people have seen me doing consultations and, giving out information and stuff, but one of my things really was to wait until the people who had heard the music and who felt like they wanted to collaborate on it came and started talking with me about it, instead of just trying to go and chase things and not be sure who. So, a few years ago, was it 2017 when the 614 Ladies Cypher came out? OG Sad did that, and I got a chance to engineer that one, and it was awesome. But even then, I was like, man, I wish I made this beat. I wish I had got to do a verse. So then, when Chad approached me about the cypher, it was just like, oh wait, she wants to do one of these, and she's fire, which means it's gonna be fire. And honestly, that was enough inspiration for the beat. Just having that thought already in my head, and already having the desire, being really motivated and inspired by you wanting to work together to do it. That was already enough. And then when we sat down in the studio, and I asked you, I said, any type of tempo, any type of sound, any type of anything, you were like, I asked you to make the beat because I want to hear what you're going to make. And I was like, oh, it's a rap then. So, I mean, that was just, it was the right melting pot for that, honestly. And as far as when I was making it, I was really just trying to think, how do I get something that just knocks, but is just as saucy as I feel like Columbus is? Because that's how I feel like Columbus is. We got this kind of smooth, kind of jazz, folky undertones, but we also we love to rock out. We love, that knock, and we love the thump too. So that was kind of what I was thinking about there. Well, I mean, the verse that I did for it is, it's a pretty honest cypher verse. It's pretty declarative, mostly. It's mostly just hey, here's who I am. So for all of the people who might have, heard of Columbus Unite, who might have seen me running around, they know the work with the engineering, I really wanted it to be I'm showing off not only, flow and lyrical capability, but I wanted people to get an idea of who I was. So when I talk about the first half of the verse is really me talking just about what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna come in with bars, and I'm gonna come in with lyrics and the story behind what happened and how we're even there. The second half, when I start talking about some of the other pieces, I've kind of always felt that some of the ideas and some of the opinions that I have are just really radically different than a lot of what you'll commonly see. And I used to just go around really just trying to demand that people hear them, but without actually necessarily executing for them to see some of those things. And so the very end of that, where I'm talking about, more bodied bards who played the jester in the royal court, no weapon formed against me, you'll only injure yours. That part is kind of the idea of like, you can't convince me to play and fight fire with fire like you guys do. You can't convince me of that because I saw how that destroys people already through other things, and you're just gonna mess yourself up. Furthermore, when I go into the second half where I say, I saw the writing on the wall, the blind they needed braille, of course. That means they really gotta feel it or they'll not believe, no hope until they touch what's manifested from a God dream. That's me talking about those ideas, those concepts, these ways of doing things that I've been wanting to fight for and that I hope to kind of exemplify. And I feel like there's a lot of, those are all biblical references, right? The writing on the wall is, people who didn't want to hear, correction, and who didn't want to hear like, hey, this could be better this way. No hope until they touch what's manifested from a God dream. That's kind of a direct reference to doubting Thomas needing to touch the holes in Christ's hands, right? So what I'm getting at there is, if I really want you guys to see or believe or understand anything that I'm talking about, you're gonna have to really feel it, and that means me putting myself out there. So that's kind of what the second half of that verse is mostly about. Well, I mean, I'm all about Columbus Unite. I can't believe what I've seen happen in Columbus in the last couple of years. I remember being a teenager. I remember being 16, 17 and doing some pay-to-play shows at Scully's or some of these other places, and the crowd being really dope, but the promoters and the venues and everything was just a horrible experience from start to finish. And it was all pay-to-play, and it was all like, you gotta sell tickets and then you only get like $1 of the ticket you sold, and all sorts of just things that don't make sense. And that still happens, but there's a lot of really high quality shows, high quality promoters, more venues that are trying to do more collaborative work with the creatives. And I think that the creatives have been stepping up their game in specifically being creative. There's a lot of different types of events, a lot of different types of vibes or whatever. If you're into a turn up, there's that. If you want to go to a kickback, there's those house parties, all of that. The only thing that I want to see right now is I really want to see everybody level up in their knowledge base, because I feel like Columbus is really on the brink of breaking out of this incubator it's been in, where we've been doing a lot of really amazing things and making buzz, but not in a way that might necessarily turn the heads. But now that we've got more people doing national tours, we've got more people doing major videos, more people dropping amazing projects and working with industry names, now that we have these things really starting to boil over, they're gonna come in and they're gonna try to take it. So if you're not properly registered, not properly trademarked, if you don't know your business, if you don't know how much things actually cost and the time they actually take, they're gonna come in and they're going to undermine people, they're gonna take people's publishing percentages, and I'm scared of that part happening. So if there's anything that I really want is, as passionate as we've been about flourishing creatively, I wanna also flourish the same way, so that we can battle against the negative parts of corporate in the industry that are going to come in and try to squash that creativity, because I want us to already own it all. I want it to be like, you can't touch this shit, I already own it. I don't need your distribution, I already got it. You know, I hope that for us. But that takes a lot of collaborative work between the people that know, learning how to explain things. It takes like people wanting to know and even realizing that some things haven't just been made aware yet, right? So that's a big one. And the other thing I would love to see is there's been more of the competition, and I really like the competition. I don't care about beefs, I don't care about any of that, but I like the idea of iron sharpening iron. So even though I'm about Columbus Unite, and even though I'm going to support, like, I'm also saying more body bards who played the jester in the royal court. So as an MC, I'm also saying, like, I'm stepping into the arena in that way, and in that competitive spirit too. I think that that's healthy as long as it's understood in kind of like a family iron sharpening iron, competitive, growing, nurturing type of thing. I don't want to see any malice, I don't want to see any actual issues, but growth in professionalism and knowledge base, and growth in competition, and being willing to just fucking say it when you disagree with something and say it when you think something different. I want to see more of that shit for sure. Rachel Rene. It's at TheRachelRene on everything. Rene is R-E-N-E. So, at TheRachelRene on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want to find me. ColumbusUnite.com. We've got forums on there for people to get on and collaborate and discuss with each other. We've got upcoming events and information. Shout out Bardo. Shout out the Blatant Brew. Shout out everybody who supports and works with Columbus Unite.
Four body bards who play the jester in the royal court. No weapon formed against me, you'll only injure yours. All the malice only serves to make a hell of swords. Saw the writing on the wall, the blind they need a braille, of course. That means they really gotta feel it, or they'll not believe in hope until they touch what's manifested from a God dream. Spirit Elijah, aggression.